Motorcycles move fast, but death moves faster. These aren't just accidents. They're sudden, violent ends that happened in front of crowds, cameras, and sometimes even loved ones. In this video, we'll break down 5 more of the most disturbing motorcycle crash deaths ever recorded. These are real stories of riders who pushed the limits and paid for it with their lives. Some were professionals. Some were just out for a ride. Not one of them made it back. It was June 17, 2021, in Moses Lake, Washington. Crowds gathered at Grant County International Airport for the opening of the Moses Lake Air Show. Among them was 28-year-old Alex Harville, a professional motocross rider from Ephrata. That morning he was there for one reason: to attempt a 351-foot motorcycle Guinness World Record. Alex had been riding bikes since he was 4. Before he could even steer on his own, he'd ride sitting on the front of his father's bike. Over time, motocross became a big part of his life. He competed in major events like the Canadian MX National Series, AMA Supercross, and Arena Cross. In 2012, Alex set the record for the longest ramp-to-dirt motorcycle jump at 425 feet. A year later, he broke another by jumping 297.55 feet from dirt to dirt, a record he still held. Now he was aiming to beat the 351-foot jump set in 2008 by Australian stunt rider Robbie Madison. To prepare, Alex had spent weeks building a ramp, training, and posting updates online. He named his bike Susie, and just 2 days before the event, he shared a photo with the caption, "Susie is ready to be sent." That morning before the main event, Alex needed to perform a warm-up run. The practice jump would be only 150 feet, less than half the full distance. The ramp had been carefully designed to help him gain enough speed and land safely on a dirt mound. Family, friends, and spectators looked on as he sped across the field. Debbie Williams, a close family friend, remembered the moment. "He went off the ramp and didn't make it to the hill," she said. "His back tire looked like it got caught. Then he flew and his helmet came off. You just start praying." In a video that was later withheld out of respect, Alex is seen not gaining enough distance. His bike clipped the edge of the landing ramp and launched him about 20 feet forward. His helmet flew off mid-air. He landed hard. The crowd went silent. A nurse in the audience later described the moment as traumatic. Medics stationed nearby rushed to him within 2.5 minutes. Alex was quickly placed in an ambulance and taken to Samaritan Hospital, but his injuries were too severe. He passed away on the way. The next day, the Grant County Sheriff's Office confirmed his passing and stated that an autopsy would be done. The results showed that he had suffered internal injuries, likely caused by the impact from his handlebars. Alex's death deeply affected not only his family, but the entire motocross community. Just a month earlier, he and his wife, Jessica, had welcomed their second child, Watson. Their older son, Willis, was 5. Jessica had been at the air show that day with both children and witnessed the entire incident. Following the news, the air show organizers posted a statement saying all proceeds from the event would go toward Alex's medical and family expenses. The sheriff's office also shared a public message of sympathy. Guinness World Records expressed their condolences as well. Robbie Madison, the stuntman whose record Alex was attempting to beat, posted on Instagram, "He was out to set a new world record today when he paid the ultimate price. My heart is broken for his family." Alex often said he was inspired by Evel Knievel. He knew the risks of stunt work and never took them lightly. He always prepared carefully, checking equipment and planning every detail. In a past interview, he said, "There's a few things left to do, little nuts and bolts, but I'm ready to send this thing." In 2017, Alex had a serious crash during a jump at Talladega Superspeedway. He had gone too fast, overshot the landing, and shattered his heel. That incident made him step back for a while, but he eventually returned to riding and began winning again. Outside of stunts, Alex worked on a farm. Riding was his passion, but his family came first. He often posted moments with his kids, celebrating life with them. A public memorial was held in Ephrata on June 30th. A GoFundMe campaign raised nearly $40,000 for his family. Alex Harville wasn't just a daredevil. He was a devoted husband, a loving father, and someone who chased his passion with everything he had. It was May 19, 2025, on the northern coast of Jamaica. Lisa Ball, a 53-year-old woman from Keighley, West Yorkshire, was on vacation with her partner, Anthony Hurt. The two had traveled to the island to celebrate their anniversary, and Lisa's birthday was the next day. This trip was meant to be a special memory for them both. They had been staying at a resort near the coastal town of Lucia, spending their time exploring and enjoying the weather. Lisa, a mother and grandmother, was known for her warmth. On social media, she went by the name Joanne Pickles and often shared personal moments. including photos from this trip. But just after sunset, around 7:40 p.m., everything changed. The couple had rented a Honda scooter and were riding along the North Coast Highway. This road is known for being busy and risky, especially for tourists. It's not well lit at night, road signs are limited, and many vehicles travel at fast speeds or without caution. As Lisa and Anthony rode along the highway, a pickup truck suddenly pulled out of a restaurant parking lot and into their path. There wasn't enough time to avoid a collision. The scooter hit the side of the truck. Lisa, riding on the back, was thrown into the air. Witnesses said she flew over 60 feet from the bike and suffered serious injuries, especially to her head. Anthony, who was believed to be driving, was also thrown but only had injuries to his feet. One witness, a local woman named Cassia Campbell-Jones, saw what happened and stopped to help. She later shared her experience online, saying she had trouble sleeping after what she saw. She called for help, contacted the hospital in advance, and did what she could. But when Lisa arrived at the hospital, it was already too late. Her injuries were too severe. Back in the UK, Lisa's daughter, Chloe Watson, confirmed her mother's passing with a short message: "Love you, Mom." Lisa left behind not only her daughter, but 5 grandchildren: Olivia, Daisy, Lila, Lily, and Madeline. Friends and family posted tributes online. Fiona Ward, a close friend, said Lisa and Anthony had been enjoying their trip until the accident. Another friend, Claire Ettenfield, who runs a salon in Keighley, described Lisa as a gentle and kind person. Anthony had previously shared a post calling Lisa a keeper and said he loved her deeply. This trip clearly meant a lot to both of them. After the crash, Jamaican police questioned the truck driver. An investigation began, but it's not clear if any legal action has been taken. The North Coast Highway has a reputation for serious accidents. Just months earlier, a Canadian tourist died in a crash on the same road. The British Foreign Office has issued warnings about road conditions in Jamaica, noting poor lighting, bad signage, and unsafe driving habits. They advise caution and sometimes even recommend four-wheel drive vehicles due to uneven roads. Scooter and motorcycle rentals are popular among tourists because they're affordable and easy to use, but they come with risk. And for Lisa and Anthony, that risk became real. Lisa came to Jamaica to celebrate her relationship and birthday. Instead, the trip ended in tragedy. The crash didn't just take her life. It left a deep impact on her family, friends, and community. People who knew Lisa from childhood shared their grief online, remembering her as a kind and joyful person. Many described her as someone who made others feel welcome and loved. Lisa wasn't famous. She lived a private life, but the way she died has raised serious concerns about road safety for visitors in Jamaica. While authorities continue to look into what happened, her story is now one of many involving tourists who didn't make it back home. Lisa Ball lost her life the night before her birthday in a crash that could have happened to anyone. Her loved ones continue to mourn, and for those who knew her, the loss still feels unreal. It was May 26, 2024 in Quindío, Colombia. Two 19-year-old best friends, Catherine Juliet Cubillos Cardenas and Selena Valentina Valencia Ramirez, were out riding a motorcycle late at night. Catherine was driving, and Selena was sitting behind her. They were headed from the small town of Pueblo Tapao to Montenegro, a familiar route. This time, though, they recorded their ride. That video would later reveal the final moments of their lives. They were riding a Black Act NKD motorcycle with the license plate TRM86F. It was around 1:02 a.m., and the road was dark with little lighting. Neither girl was wearing a helmet. The focus wasn't on safety, it was about having fun. They laughed, shouted, and smiled into the camera, while Selena filmed from behind as Catherine drove. At first, the video shows two teens simply enjoying themselves, but the mood quickly shifts. Catherine was driving fast, and the road ahead wasn't clearly visible. Still, she looked at the camera several times, taking her eyes off the road. There were no special effects or music, just the sound of the engine and their voices. Then something went wrong. They slightly veered off. It's unclear whether it was due to the road, a bump, or a small misstep, but it was enough. Catherine lost control of the bike. The screen went black. The phone dropped. The recording stopped. That was the moment of the crash. They had collided head-on with a large tree near a condominium complex outside Montenegro. The crash was intense. The speed of the motorcycle and the lack of helmets left them exposed. Both were thrown to the ground on impact. Passing drivers saw the crash and pulled over. They found the girls lying near the wreck. Emergency services were called, and firefighters from Pueblo Tapao arrived quickly. But it was already too late. Both girls had lost their lives at the scene. Later, a second video surfaced, this time from a witness. It showed Selena unresponsive and Catherine still breathing for a brief moment. People nearby were shouting for help, trying to get an ambulance, but her injuries were too severe. By the time medics arrived, both girls were gone. Police soon arrived to investigate. Traffic officers mapped out the crash scene, and forensic teams handled the bodies and transported them to the morgue in Calarca. Authorities began looking into possible causes: road conditions, speed, and driver inexperience. Catherine had been driving while distracted by the camera. No helmets were worn, which increased the risk of a fatal outcome. The video wasn't shared publicly until a few days later, on Friday. When it did surface, it spread quickly across Colombia and beyond. Viewers were shocked at how quickly things changed from joy to tragedy, and this wasn't the only case. In May alone, Quindío saw at least 10 motorcycle-related deaths. The region's mountain roads and tight corners have made accidents more common, especially among young riders. Just one day before Catherine and Selena's crash, a 37-year-old man named Juan Arango died in a separate road incident in Santos. He was struck by a vehicle and the driver left the scene. That person had not been found by Tuesday. Gustavo Santos, a leader of a local motorcycle group, said the growing number of incidents was heartbreaking. He explained that it's often hard to assign blame, but it's clear that too many lives are being lost. The deaths of Catherine and Selena stood out because they weren't just headlines, they were recorded. The video made their final moments feel real to viewers. One second they were laughing, the next it was over. They were only 19. One decision, riding without helmets, going too fast, and focusing on filming instead of the road, changed everything. That week in May ended with 5 traffic-related deaths in Quindío alone. The area was left grieving and looking for answers. In Catherine and Selena's case, the facts point to a series of risky choices made in a moment of excitement. Officials are still reviewing the footage and the crash scene for their final report. Their video, now seen by many, is more than a memory. It's a record of what went wrong. It was May 27, 2025, in Duque de Caxias, a busy town in northern Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Oriel Misael Henrique, 41 years old, was on his way to visit his daughter. His wife rode with him on the back of their motorcycle. This was a familiar trip. Oriel worked as a motorcycle taxi driver and also as a cook. He had 3 children, aged 21, 19, and 6, and was known as a devoted family man. That Tuesday afternoon started out like any other, but what followed was something no one expected. As they made their way through town, something barely visible was stretched across the road. At first, it looked like a thin thread, but it was actually something far more dangerous, a type of string known in Brazil as linha chilena. Linha chilena is a modified kite string coated with glue and powdered glass. It's used in a popular game called kite fighting, where people try to cut each other's kite strings mid-air. While it's a common pastime, the string itself is extremely dangerous. It's sharp enough to cut skin, and worse. As Oriel turned along a curve in the road, the glass-coated string caught him directly across the neck. His wife, seated behind him, saw everything. The injury was severe and immediate. A nearby driver saw what happened and pulled over. Alongside Oriel's wife, the driver tried to stop the bleeding. They rushed him toward Nova Iguaçu General Hospital, but during the drive, Oriel's condition worsened. He went into cardiac arrest and didn't make it. Doctors confirmed he had passed away. The time of death was recorded at 5:53 p.m. News of the incident quickly spread. Oriel's niece, Ghislaine Chrysley, told the news outlet Globo that the family was heartbroken. He had simply been on his way to visit his daughter, but now he was gone. Unfortunately, this kind of event isn't rare in Brazil. Accidents involving kite strings like these have been increasing, especially in urban areas like Rio de Janeiro. These strings are often made even more dangerous with added materials like metal. They've caused injuries to people, animals, and even damaged electrical wires. Linha chilena is banned in several parts of Brazil, including Rio, but enforcement has been difficult. According to the Move Rio Institute, more than 2,800 kite string-related incidents have been reported in Rio since 2019. These strings can drift across highways and hang at low heights, making them especially dangerous for motorcyclists. To protect themselves, many bikers now install antennas on their motorcycles. These antennas have small blades on top to cut any string before it reaches the rider. Some highway companies even provide them for free, but not everyone has one. Oriel didn't. Just days after Oriel's death, a delivery driver named Luan Mota had a similar experience in the same area. He said he was driving slowly and managed to pull a string out of his path just in time. He didn't have an antenna either. He warned others, saying these strings are nothing to take lightly. The Brazilian Association of Motorcyclists estimates that over 100 accidents involving kite strings happen in Rio each year. Around half of them them lead to serious injuries, and a quarter result in fatalities. Now a bill is being considered by Brazil's Senate to ban the production, sale, and use of these dangerous kite strings across the country. If passed, it would carry penalties including prison time and large fines. Kite flying is a long-standing tradition in Brazil. In many neighborhoods, it's seen as a joyful activity. But when the strings are turned into something harmful, the results can be tragic. Oriol didn't see the string until it was too late. It was thin, sharp, and almost invisible. A simple trip he had made many times ended with a sudden and heartbreaking loss. He leaves behind his wife and 3 children. Authorities are now investigating where the Linha Chilena came from and who may have been flying the kite that left it hanging across the road. It was July 2024 in southwestern Turkey. Tatiana Ozolina, a 38-year-old Russian motorcyclist and social media influencer, was riding her red BMW S1000RR along the Milas-Suke highway. She had been traveling between the city of Muğla and the resort town of Bodrum. Known to millions online as Moto Tanya, she had built a career out of her motorcycle travels, gaining over 8 million followers across TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. But this journey would be her last. Earlier that summer, Tatiana had tried to continue her motorcycle tour through Europe, but was turned away at the Greek border due to travel restrictions on Russian citizens. In her final Instagram post, she expressed disappointment but stayed positive, writing that she had crossed into Greece on foot, bought a magnet as a souvenir, and returned to Turkey. She ended her post by saying she would continue exploring the beautiful, warm, and hospitable country of Turkey. By then, Tatiana had already covered thousands of kilometers, riding from the Black Sea coast near Georgia through northern Turkey and heading southwest. Just days before the crash, she posted a relaxed photo in a bikini, smiling and looking carefree. On the day of the crash, Tatiana was riding with 2 other bikers, a Turkish man named Onur Obut and another unidentified rider. Somewhere near the town of Milas, something went wrong. Reports say Tatiana lost control of her motorcycle and collided with a truck. The impact was severe. She passed away at the scene before help could arrive. Onur was badly injured and taken to Milas State Hospital. The 3rd rider was unharmed. At first, the cause of the accident wasn't clear, but later, reports suggested that just before the crash, Onur's motorcycle may have bumped into the back of Tatiana's bike. She had been leading the group and slowed down in front of a truck when Onur's bike clipped hers. That moment of contact likely caused her to lose control. Witnesses described her motorcycle spinning out and veering into a ditch. One report said the bike was thrown into a jackknife position, causing her to strike her head. Another source mentioned a serious neck injury. A Russian news outlet, Baza, reported that Tatiana was briefly conscious but passed away before emergency teams arrived. Turkish officials began an investigation to piece together what happened, but the basic facts were already clear. Tatiana Ozolina, the most followed motorcycle content creator in Russia, had died doing what she loved most. Her death spread quickly through the biking community and online. Known for her bold riding and fearless travel, Tatiana had 5 million followers on TikTok, 2 million on YouTube, and nearly 1 million on Instagram. She wasn't just a traveler. She was a full-time content creator. In 2023, she was named Moto Blogger of the Year, and in April 2024, she received a Travel Blogger of the Year award from Kickstarter. But her fame came with criticism too. Some admired her, others disliked her public presence. Still, her impact couldn't be denied. Andrei Ivanov, head of the Moto Moscow Association, said she had a bright and beautiful life. She was admired, envied, copied, and sometimes criticized. Now all that remains is her memory. Her final Instagram video, recorded near the Greek border, showed her smiling despite the setback. She seemed ready to keep moving forward. After her passing, fans left hundreds of comments. One wrote, "Tanya, I can't believe it's true. You'll be in my heart forever." Another said, "Brave girl, rest in peace." Some Russian news outlets mentioned that Tatiana had a 13-year-old son. Her family didn't release a public statement, but friends and fellow riders continued to share tributes online. An investigation into the crash continued, but most were left focusing not on how it happened, but on who was lost. Tatiana had built her life around the open road, and in the end, it was that same road that brought her journey to a sudden and tragic end.